You know, speaking of keeping these weapons apparently off the street, our friends over at Polysesouvient, which is, it's always a slow motion disaster over there. I just noticed something and I thought it was worth mentioning. The only way, and this is, and I've had to explain this to media too, they never put this part on TV or on the radio for some reason, but the only way that the Liberals' plan works, the only way that Canadians will agree with this buyback and these prohibitions or whatever, is they have to tie licensed gun owners to the carnage that Canadians see in their communities across the country on a not on a daily basis, but in some parts almost daily, right? They have to tie that to licensed gun owners for any of their initiatives to make sense. And everybody that spent 15 minutes looking at this topic knows that there's those, as Rob Carver from the Winnipeg Police said, these communities don't intersect. So they put all their effort into trying to make that connection. And you know who does that as well is Poly, right? You know, you see these full auto shootings in White Rock. You see all this total carnage and mayhem, and they don't breathe a word, right?
Oh, no.
So what did they do, whatever it was, like a week ago? They have this little poster that they post up all the time to show all the mass shootings committed by licensed gun owners. And it's funny, it's a little grid. I'm showing it to you right now. It's this little grid. And this is the best they could come up with over the last 70 years in Canada, okay? And they even got 2 spaces missing. They couldn't even come up with 2 more spaces. And in fact, when you look at this, because this is what they do all day long, it's like licensed gun owners are the problem. Don't worry about everybody else, right? And if you look through this thing, like I did, when they posted, I'm like, well, yeah, about 50% of multiple victim public shootings in Canada have been committed by people that legally obtained their firearms. But the problem is there's about 15 of those events in the last 70 years. So you're talking 7 or 8. Rare. Okay, so like, you know, it's unacceptable if it ever happens even once. But we're talking about a nation of 40 million people. And it is people do bad things like this all the time. Look at the James Cree stabbing spree, right? James Cree Nation stabbing spree. That more people were killed than 80% of the multiple victim public shootings in Canadian history in that stabbing spree, right? So again, if you're going to talk about these things, you have to be reasonable. But even if you look at their little grid here, there's about 5 of these that weren't actually defined as mass shootings. Like that's how difficult a time they have. That's how bad at this argument game they are, and yet they still keep on trying.
Oh yeah, they keep doing it because they're not doing it to actually win an argument with us or with other pro-gun people or you know, pro-safety people. What they're trying to do is get that out in front of as many eyes as possible to do exactly what you said, is taint the public's image of gun owners and make a direct connection between licensed gun owners and violence. And yeah, there has been a handful of tragedies, and they are unacceptable and they're horrible and tragic. But at the same time, we don't live in a country where we assign mass guilt to, you know, tens of millions of people for the crimes of 6, or, you know, it's unreasonable.
Yeah, it's a real mess. But anyway, and when it comes to violence, random violence, especially mass violence, I mean, you had the Bluebird Cafe arson back in the 70s in Montreal. Like 150 people or 130 people were injured and 35 people died for $2 worth of gasoline, probably 90 cents worth of gasoline in those days, and a match and a lighter, right? And the knife attack, the James Cree Nation knife attack, and of course the van attack. 18 people died, 28 in total affected, but 18 people died and another 11 injured or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, you can check the numbers yourself. I just don't have them off the top of my head right now because I didn't look that up ahead of time. But
we don't treat any of those other tragedies the way we treat one where it was committed with a firearm.
Of course.
We're not talking about banning people from renting vans or buying petrol or, you know, we're not talking about any of that. But when it comes to guns, it's like, well, we must punish, you know, millions of gun owners for these crimes.
Well,
like
but this is the frustrating nature of this. And until everyone in that conversation, in the national conversation about gun violence, until everyone decides that they're ready to be honest and reasonable, we're never going to have the two sides come together. I can't count. I couldn't count on both hands how many times I reached out to Polly or the Spin Docs or any of these people to say, okay, hey, let's let bygones be bygones. There's a national conversation that has to happen because both of us are suffering here. No way. No, they've got their heels dug in. It's like, this is our narrative. And if you say it loud and that's your talking point,
repeat it often
and you
enough.
repeat it, people will totally believe it. So just go it.
No, I actually gave them some real advice. I said that if you actually say it louder, we've learned in the House of Commons, if you repeat it, if you say it louder, if that is your talking point, people will totally believe it. So just go it. If that is your talking point, people will totally believe it. So if that is your talking point, people will totally believe it. So just go it.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
who said that? I mean, got to be a famous conservative. Oh yeah, no, it was a liberal minister in this group of people we talked about a minute ago. But anyway, all right. Enough off the, of shouting from the soapbox. It's, anyways, just such a disaster there.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
And by the way, one more, I said I was going to move on, but I checked out that probably every 4 weeks, I'll look over at the Spin Docs feed and see what kind of disaster is going on there. There's been a lot. I'm not going to get into everything that's going on over there, but they are, off the rails again, but they're using the term assault weapons, right? That the conservatives want to make assault weapons legal again. Total disinformation, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And Pauly's doing it too, still hashtag assault weapons and calling them assault weapons. And, if you remember, like I'm playing right now in the background, City TV showing a full auto mag dump, full capacity mag dump while they're talking about this ban. Like it's so disingenuous, the propaganda. But anyway, what a disaster Canadian politics is right now. All right.
Well, and that's why we see the crime rates and the violence rates continue to go up because gun owners and the anti-gun lobbies are all kind of caught up in this big debate. But at the same time, nobody's looking over there at all the actual crime. They never post about actual, street crime and gang crime and all the things that are happening all the time. They never post about it, never talk about it. They only ever want to talk about licensed gun owners. And for me, that's how I know we don't sit at the same table because we don't have the same goal. We want an end to, crime, violence, and gun smuggling, and they want an end to legal gun ownership. So we don't have the same goals.
Yeah, well, all that stuff runs. If they start talking about the daily violence and where that violence is coming from, it breaks the narrative. And at the end of the day, here's the bottom line. The narrative is more important to these people than the truth. The narrative is more important than people's lives. The narrative is more important than anything. These are ideologues. They're zealots. And so that's how you can tell that you can't reason with somebody when the narrative is more important than anything else.
Remember, if you don't stand up for your own ability to own and use firearms, who will? Join the CCFR or donate right now at www.firearmrights.ca.